IMU is handing out demonic contracts with spell books. What in the Black Clover is going on? I know at first this seemingly new power seems off the wall, but what if I told you that this is actually nothing new? Actually, contracts with the devil explains the many unexplainable powers we've seen throughout the story, including Zoro's Ashura, Sanji's Ifrit, and even Cavendish's split personality, Hakuba. But I believe the biggest footprint of a contract with the devil we've seen is none other than the devil fruits. That's right, stick with me throughout the video and I'll explain how devil contracts are the key to understanding everything we've been missing about the full scope of One Piece's power systems. But before I begin, make sure to give the video a huge thumbs up if you're already enjoying the direction of the theory. Now let's get into it. Upon giving Dory and Buggy a devil contract, IMU said something we have heard before. IMU said, "Under IMU's dominion thou shalt be granted unprecedented strength. No longer shalt thou be bounded by reason nor by common sense." Unprecedented strength? Unbound by reason or common sense? That sounds exactly how the Gorosei depicted Luffy's devil fruit awakening. They referred to the fruit as only limited by imagination and the most ridiculous power. Both IMU and Nika are described as unbounded by common sense. What IMU is describing is the same exact power we see in devil fruits, especially with fruits with the name of gods like the Nika fruit. But before we get fully into this, let's focus on the word God for a second, as well as the word devil. We have no evidence that creatures of that sort exist within the physical realm of One Piece, but Vegapunk offers a hypothesis that they may exist in another realm. He says these powers exist in different dimensions dreamed up by someone else before them. The idea of a different dimension was intentionally introduced by Oda through Vegapunk because he wants to explore that part of the universe very soon. This same realm where devil fruits come from is where I believe IMU comes from. IMU is likely a devil that has managed to physically manifest in the real world without the medium of a devil fruit. But why is this important to understand? Well, I believe devil contracts as IMU displayed are how these deities manifest in our reality. For example, in the case with the devil fruits, the contract is the same as IMU describes. In exchange for incredible strength and unreasonable abilities, the devils within the devil fruits get to be a host in the user's body. And especially in the case of Zoan fruit users, they can be even affected by the devil's personality. We see this in the case of Luffy's Nika, where he is in a state of constant laughter while he is awakening. We've also seen bad cases of this with the Jailer Beast, whose personality has been completely taken over. But see, the difference between the two tells us more about devils and contracts. It's my hypothesis that a failed awakening, like in the case of the Jailer Beast, is due to a failed contract, while a successful awakening, like Gear 5th, is due to a successful contract. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, before IMU gave Dory and Buggy powers, he actually laid out the terms and conditions of the contract. Before even turning them, IMU said, "Blue Ogre Dory and Red Ogre Buggy, I command thee to claim dominion of this land. Henceforth ye shall reign as the kings of Elbaf. Go and meet with Ja Rule and take his head and proclaim that we are the kings of Elbaf." Those demands by IMU came before the actual Domi Reversi contract that granted them these demonic powers. And as soon as they turn, they begin to follow through with the conditions set by IMU. I believe this is how devil contracts are formed. Remember, these devils exist from the imagination of people who desire to be more. So naturally, the devil's own desires are inherited with their powers. Consider a few examples of this. Let's take a look at Dofi, who has the string fruit. String is thematically linked to control and manipulation, so naturally that fruit will be attracted to a controlling person. Not only that, it may even motivate him to be more controlling. It's even possible that the string fruit has its own contract with Dofi, something along the lines of, "Control and manipulate as much people with my strings as possible, and I will grant you more power." See, fulfilling this contract is when awakening is fully manifested. Remember, Kaido told us that awakening exists when the user's mind and body catch up with their powers. emphasis on the mind catching up. This tells us that you must be mentally aligned with your devil, hence why contracts are so important. Fulfill the contract, you will awaken. Don't fulfill the contract, you will be taken over by the devil itself, like in the case of the jailer beast. This is the relationship between devils that exist in other dimensions and the humans that use their powers. Imu's contract with Dory and Buggy are a direct representation of this. But I don't believe devil fruits is the only way these contracts can be formed. Let's take a look at Ifrit, Janbei, and Ashura for example. Ifrit and Ashura are actual demons of lore. Ifrit is a god of fire often found in Islam, and Ashura is a god of destruction often found in Hindu. So what if all the times Zoro and Sanji draw on these unexplainable powers, they have somehow found a way to connect with the other realm through their own personal demonic contracts? Think about it. Sanji and Zoro have a lot of personal contracts. Sanji has, I shall not hit a woman, I shall not use my hands outside of the kitchen. Zoro has, I shall not ever lose again, I shall become the world's strongest swordsman. I believe these personal contracts attract certain deities with those similar personalities. Ashura may be a very prideful being who craves strength above all. Ifrit may be a very passionate being who follows specific codes of conduct. And in exchange for sticking through with their own personal contracts, Zoro can manifest Ashura's many arms, and Sanji can manifest Ifrit's fire. So what am I really saying here? I'm saying that contracts with the devil have actually been embedded in One Piece's power system throughout the whole story. We just did not know the specifics of how they're formed. Now with Imu's introduction, we get a direct representation of exactly how they're formed. Now this bleeds into the most important reason why these contracts may be important. See, Imu seems to be able to force these contracts on you to where the devil is in the driver's seat, while usually devil contracts seem to be mutual, as in the case of devil fruits. This is incredibly dangerous because what's stopping Imu from forcing contracts on the Straw Hats? What's stopping her from, for example, turning Zoro and Sanji into demons and making them fight Luffy or even one another? Well, this would be possible if this was indeed a new power system that nobody else in the story had access to, except it's not. As I said, Zoro and Sanji may have their own personal contracts with their own devils. That's why they have powers that we typically see with devil fruits without ever eating devil fruits. That's also why I don't believe Imu will be able to force contracts with them, because they are already binded by their own contracts. This is narratively backed by the idea that you usually cannot eat two devil fruits, because two devils means two contracts and you can only have one. So Zoro and Sanji may deny the contracts, especially if it contradicts with the ones they already have with their own devils, Ifrit and Ashura. This detail is very relevant, especially considering that Imu defined the rules of the contract before giving them powers. So if he were to turn Zoro and Sanji, he would have to define the rules of their contracts prior to turning them. And that's when Zoro and Sanji may have the choice whether to accept the contract or not. For example, imagine if part of Imu's contracts to turn Sanji was for him to kill all the Straw Hats. Well, you see, since there are women in the Straw Hats, Sanji could willfully deny that contract and deny the Domi reversing. His contract with Ifrit as a very passionate being may not allow this to happen. This also ties together the power of contracts with the power of haki. If you have the willpower to defy the contract, you will be able to. It's also possible that these contracts are fortified by haki itself. So even when fully fleshing out this seemingly new power, I believe Oda has set restrictions on Imu's ability to do this with just anyone, as well as making sure this flows easily with the idea of willpower and haki. Ultimately, I believe these devil contracts are what's at the core of powers like devil fruits, cursed swords, and other unexplainable powers that come from this separate dimension. I don't believe IMU is the only one that has access to this. Rather, this has been a power displayed all throughout the story. When you think of Hakuba manifesting when Cavendish falls asleep, when you think of Mihawk's eyes and cursed swords, when you think about elemental powers like the minks, like the fishman, like Sanji's fire, these are powers that are all coming from this other dimension Vegapunk speaks of. So pay attention to how Oda continues to write IMU's Domi Reversi and keep a close eye on Zoro and Sanji, who are now headed to the Sun World to fight IMU and his gang. That's the theory, guys. Hope you enjoyed watching and listening like always. Also, big news, we have a new content schedule to keep mindful of. I will be posting theories on Sundays, reactions on Thursdays, and going live on certain Mondays. So look forward to seeing more. Middleweight out.